What is going on, everybody? This is Owen here. So about a year ago, I made a video where I talked about some predictions that I had for the third season of Invincible, and the video actually did very well. It was, for a while, my most popular video. That is until I posted that music video last month, which just blew the hell up. Thanks for that, I guess. Anyways, so now that Season 3 has officially ended, well, it actually ended about a week ago as of recording this video, I thought it only made sense that I do a follow-up video where I basically talk about predictions for Season 4. Now, before we begin, there are a few things I do want to say really quick. First of all, I'm really sorry for not getting this video out sooner. I was honestly really hoping to get this out on the same day that the finale aired. And I even recorded a whole video, but when I looked back at it, I was like, this just feels very rushed. And I also had a lot of other things going on at the time, and I was just like, I should take a step back and record this another day. And here we are now, so hopefully this won't feel as rushed as it did when I filmed it the first time. Second, just like with the last video, I want to give a big spoiler warning to anyone out there that hasn't finished Season 3 yet or hasn't really read the comics at all. We're going to be diving into some probably big spoilers in this video, so just putting it out there in case you haven't finished the show or read the comics just yet. Anyways, let's just finally begin this video, so let's go. Now, I'm actually really glad I didn't stick with that original video, because about a day after I recorded that, we actually got some pretty interesting news. And that is that Season 4 is actually going to have its own original storyline centering around Damien Darkblood. And this was something that they hinted at in the Season 3 finale in an after-credits scene. Now, this is actually very interesting because, like I said in the previous video, the show has been very faithful to the comic. There, of course, has been some new additions to the show that weren't in the comic here and there, such as newer characters and minor plot elements here and there. But none of them have been ever to this extent where it's like a whole new storyline. So I'm really interested to see where this will go in the next season. Now, obviously, I can't really say much about what we can expect to see because, it's original to the show. But I do have an idea of where this storyline will probably come into play next season. So going back to the previous video, I talked about how in Season 3 we were going to be seeing Mark get his blue suit, which, sure enough, that is exactly what happened. However, in the first video, I also talked about how the blue suit sort of represents his most violent and rageful behavior yet. It's kind of like the equivalent of the symbiote suit in Spider-Man, except it doesn't turn him into a monster, and there's also less dancing. With that said, we didn't really get to see that side of Mark all that much this season. I mean, sure, there were a couple moments here and there, but really this season was more about the moral battle between whether or not bad people can be redeemed if it means saving the world, or if killing them is justified because, well, they're not going to do any more bad things if they're dead. And as we saw in the finale, it seems like Mark sides with the latter of which because he tells Oliver that he's like, I'm not going to hesitate anymore. So I definitely think that's going to be how this season's going to begin. We're going to see this very aggressive and angry version of Mark, like we did during the end of his fight with Conquest. This, of course, will lead up to an event that was actually hinted at in the finale, and that, of course, is the return of the Sequids. This is something I also mentioned in the previous video, which is that during this fight, Mark realizes that the best way to end this whole fight is to actually kill Russ Livingston, who's being used by the Sequids as a host. And sure enough, that's exactly what he does. And I think it's this moment where we'll see the Darkblood storyline come into play, because in the comic, after this whole battle, Mark ends up having a lot of regret, and he ends up going to Art for guidance where he tells him, I feel like my dad, I feel like this suit's like a curse, blah, blah, blah. Art tells him, well, if you want to be the person you used to be, I can make you look the part. And so, sure enough, Mark goes back to his original yellow, black, and blue suit. And so I think for the show, they'll probably have this Darkblood storyline come into play where he's brought to hell from this moment, and he's dealing with, regret, inner demons, blah, 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 and, you know, he needs to learn forgiveness for himself. I don't know. I imagine something like that will happen. It's kind of a guess, admittedly, because again, this is a completely new storyline that isn't in the comic. So if I were to guess, it would probably come into play after this battle. Obviously, I can't be 100% certain about that, but hey, you never know. Now, something that I was curious about when I first learned about this was whether or not this was going to be a sort of mid-season event or if this was going to be a finale. Because if that's the case, then, well, that kind of makes it difficult to imagine what the rest of the season will be like. Because personally, I kind of see this more as being like a mid-season sort of event, and it would actually blend in well with my initial thoughts for how Season 4 was going to go. I initially imagined Season 4 would have the first half be Mark dealing with like anger issues and stuff like that after the whole conquest fight, and then the second half be focused on the next big event for the series. And if that is the case, then I think it's pretty safe to say that the next big event that we will see in Season 4 is the Viltrumite War. This right here might just be the biggest event of the series so far. And it's something that I could totally imagine playing out over the course of at least 3 to 4 episodes. Like, this is a huge deal in the comic. And I think if they were to translate it just like how it is in the comic, it would take a couple of episodes to do it right. And it's during this sequence of the story that we are introduced to pretty much the main villain of the entire series, Thrag. Now, I'm actually a little surprised that we weren't introduced to Thrag already. I expected to see him at some point during Season 3, but I have been seeing several articles that have mentioned that he has been casted, which is part of the reason why I think this will take place next season, or at the very least, this will be the main focus for the following season. Either way, it is a very big event, and I'm very curious if it is going to be adapted next season. It all really depends on what they're going to do with this new Dark Blood storyline. I think it would fit perfectly as like a mid-season event, kind of like the whole Thraxa battle in Season 2. Again, it's a very big event, and it's something that I could totally imagine taking place over the course of at least 4 episodes. Hello, I come to you from the future while I edit this video. So initially I tried wrapping this video up by talking about some other moments that we could expect to see happen in Season 4, but I didn't do a very good job at explaining them, so I figured I'd just record this short little video where I'll just briefly recap what I attempted to say. I didn't feel like setting up my camera again, so we'll have to deal with this quality for now. So anyway, so one of the things I definitely imagine we are going to see in Season 4 is probably either like a singular episode or maybe several sections split across multiple episodes that will follow Alan and Nolan right after they broke out of prison. During this time, we'll see Nolan inform the Coalition of Planets about how Viltrum is rather weak at the moment and that it's actually possible to take them down. And so we'll see him and Alan pretty much preparing to go to battle before finally the two come back to Earth, where they tell Mark, hey, we gotta go to war. It's also right after this that we're introduced to a new character known as Tech Jacket. This is actually a character that made some brief appearances in the final 2 episodes of Season 3. And this character actually plays a very big role during the Viltrumite War. So I imagine we'll be getting a much more proper introduction to this character if we do end up seeing the Viltrumite War this season. A couple of other things I imagine we'll probably see in Season 4. First, I imagine there will be a moment that pretty much is like a small setup to a future storyline revolving around Monster Girl and Robot. And lastly, I imagine we're also going to get a brief appearance of the character Dinosaurus, who doesn't do very much at this point in time, but they end up coming back later on in the series, which I imagine will probably be around Season 5 or so. And during this time, they'll have a much bigger role. But for now, I imagine they'll just make a very brief appearance or something like that. Anyway, that's basically what I tried to say, so I'll turn it back to me in the past to wrap up this video. Anyways, to wrap things up, there's a lot we can definitely expect to see next season. Again, I'm not exactly sure how they're going to do it. I'm really hoping we'll see the Viltrumite War, but part of me is nervous that we're not going to. Instead, we'll have more focus on this new Dark Blood storyline. I am really interested to see what they do with this new plot, but still really hoping to see the Viltrumite War next season. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Make sure you hit that like button to show your support, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I will see you all later.